Here's Alex Rodriguez. Swung on Rodriguez. He got a lot of it. And goodbye. The Yankees are on top. They were tied. Now up by 3. That's a big knock.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the show. I am Living 5-0. This is another MLB 2K12 My Player Series. Road to the Big Apple, episode 48. We're so close to 50, guys, which is going to be exciting. But let's talk about this episode. This episode is going to be really exciting. I'm so excited for this episode. Just a little intro into what you're about to hear. This is going to be a very long episode, but I suggest you listen to it. It's very baseball-oriented, if you're going to see what I'm talking about. This is a dual commentary. I'm just doing a little intro for you guys. It's going to be me and Jared. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. And without further ado, Living, Jared, take it away.
I have Jared here, and we're going to talk about baseball. Now, I actually found Jared, because I just went into YouTube and I typed, baseball talk or whatever, and he popped up. And he's so knowledgeable about baseball. I was like, man, I got to get this guy in a dual com. So, man, thank you so much for, doing this with me, and I'm so excited to talk baseball with you.
Nah, thank you very much for having me on your show, man.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting. So let's just jump right into it. And just so you guys know, this is probably going to be pretty long. So it's going to be a lot of my player episodes into it. So to sit back, relax, and make sure to write in the comments what you guys, how you guys feel about certain topics. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the AL wildcard. Now, If you guys don't know, the AL wildcard is so condensed right now. Like, so many teams that you didn't think were going to be there are actually there. And let's start with Baltimore. Jared, I know you have a lot to say about Baltimore. What do you think about this team?
They are probably the biggest shocker this entire season long, mostly because their rotation going into this season didn't look as strong as it could have been for a playoff push, but surprisingly, Jason Hamill has turned around and become this tremendous pitcher out of the I think he's out of the 3 spot in the rotation.
Yep.
They've gotten some tremendous wins behind Wei Yin Chen. I'm really shocked because the offense has year in and year out been pretty reliable, but has kind of lacked the ability to get wins because their pitching hasn't been so strong. And then for their rotation and their bullpen to really step it up and continue to play so well even beyond July has been ultimately the biggest shocker for all of baseball, I think.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail right on the head. I don't see how they're still doing this. I thought that they would have fallen off or something would have happened. I mean, if you look at their lineup even, I mean, they got Adam Jones, who's having a great year. He's a great player for him.
Yep.
Nick Markakis is just having a decent year. And then Reynolds is, his power is coming back. I think he has 20-plus home runs this year. But you're right. Like, the pitching, you thought that would be a problem. But like you said, it's kind of stepped up, and they're right in the hunt of things.
Yeah. I think more so over, it's been the bullpen that's been really carrying the workload. But that rotation has kept them really deep into games. So that way they don't overuse their bullpen and it gets really tired going into this final stretch.
Yep, for sure. And, yeah, I mean, we could see them actually winning the AL East, which is something that is surprising. If you know anything about baseball, you know they've been irrelevant in the AL East hunt for the longest time. So that's really, really exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, and let's talk about another team that we didn't think that was going to be here, the Oakland A's. I'm a huge A's fan. But I want your opinion on this. Like, what's going on in Oakland? This doesn't make any sense.
Well, for me, I've always liked Oakland's strategy in building around pitching. For the past, I'd say 15 years, they've been known mostly for their pitching, both in the rotation and in the bullpen. But the thing that's helped them out this year, and this is really shocking, and I think it started with the moves that they made to kind of, get younger with their pitching. But were some of the pickups that they made, like Josh Reddick, was such a huge steal for them. That it's helped out their offense in a big enough way that they're actually winning more games, that their pitching has been putting them in positions to win, and they've actually been able to secure those victories off of their bats. And that's really shocking because when you look at that lineup, it really doesn't have any kind of high caliber names, and their batting average as a team really doesn't seem that high.
Mhm.
But they're ranked 29th overall with a 237 batting average. It's not very. That's probably the worst you're going to see entering into the playoffs. But
Yeah.
it's been successful enough for them that they are right there on the cusp of taking one of the wild card spots.
Yeah, and it's insane to think that a team, like you said, I mean, Josh Reddick is having a pretty good year. I would like to see his average get a little bit higher. Cespedes has come in and he's provided that I think that they needed. But people didn't think that this was going to be an offensive team. But if you look at the last couple months, they've been producing offensively like crazy. They blew out the Boston Red Sox, like 20 runs on them. And it's insane to think that their offense is now, arguably in the past month, one of the best offenses in the league. When if you look at their average, like you said, it's not very impressive. But you mentioned a great point. Their pitching is really what's going to have to carry them through the next step. And playoffs, I mean, just a wake up call. Playoffs aren't the same as the regular season.
No.
So it's gonna be interesting if they do make it. And I think it would be pretty cool to see the Orioles versus the A's for the wild card spot. I think that would be pretty cool.
I'm leaning more towards it being the A's and Rays for the wild card. And I think it's more to do with the fact that the Rays offense has kind of fallen off, and they've always had some issues with their offense for the past 7 years anyway. But the Rays, I should say, are the ones who are kind of looking on the outside in that AL East run. Where the O's, they have a great position to kind of take it away from the Yankees, who right now would have it if they were a lot healthier, and if they still had Andy Pettitte. That's the big one that for me that I think that hurts the Yankees' playoff push.
For sure. Okay, now let's talk about the other teams that are trying to get in there and may make a run for it. Obviously, the Los Angeles Angels. What do you think about this team? Do you think that they can turn it around? I mean, they were favorites in the beginning of the year.
And they should still be favorites when you look at that lineup. On paper, their rotation is tremendous. I mean, it has probably the best depth of any rotation, of any team that's not making playoffs right now.
Yep.
Their bullpen has been tremendous. I think the steal from the Padres, if I can remember his name, I think it's Friari. That was just a tremendous boost to their bullpen, and their lineup. The way they've had a couple of issues trying to find some balance with Kendry Morales, Albert Pujols, and Mark Trumbo, because all three of these guys are first basemen by their trade. But they've always had to try and figure out how they're going to find a way to play Morales and Trumbo at the third base spot without completely taking away all the at bats from I think it's Callaspo, who's been their go-to third baseman.
Yep.
But on paper, this team looks so much better. But what's killed them all season long, they've gotten terrible outings from Dan Herron. They've gotten terrible outings from Irvin Santana, who's possibly put up some of the worst numbers I think he's ever put up in his entire career. They've gotten some really shaky outings from C.J. Wilson during the second half of this season, which I think has really hurt them. And to be honest, I think they overpaid for Zach Greinke, who I don't believe is nearly as good a pitcher as many scouts seem to think he is.
Yep, and that's exactly what I want to talk about. Zach Greinke, you hit the nail right on the head. They overpaid for him incredibly. I live in Madison, Wisconsin. I watched him in Milwaukee. Yeah, he had some good games, but he wasn't the kind of guy that I think people think that he was. I think people kind of stuck on his Kansas City days, and he's not the same pitcher. You know what I mean?
He's not.
And it's that was terrible. I mean, it wasn't terrible. Obviously, he's a decent pitcher. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I don't think he's what they thought they were getting.
Well, for me, I think what they were looking for out of this trade was someone that could not only help them get to the playoffs, but someone that could, be a reliable number 2 or number 3 behind Jarrett Weaver, in the playoffs for them. But from what I saw out of Greinke last season in the postseason, he's just not a postseason kind of pitcher. I think the pressure gets to him. He's always had issues with anxiety throughout his entire career, and I think when the pressure's on him, he crumbles, and it really shows.
It does. It does. I think that his home record is like, at least for Milwaukee, I think it was like incredible, and then his away record was terrible. And they were thinking about just playing him at home. So you made a great point about his anxiety, and it's unfortunate, but real life.
He has the talent, he has the ability. The problem is he just doesn't have the nerves.
Yep, exactly. All right. Now let's talk about this last team. Well, last two teams really quickly, and then we'll move on. Now it's weird to say the Yankees are trying to fight for a playoff spot, but now with the Orioles coming in there and Tampa Bay coming in there, they're fighting as well. And then Detroit also is a team that could inch their way up. So which of these two teams do you think has a better chance?
It's tough because the Yankees have been quite possibly the better team for the past 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
That you can't really knock them out. They've always had some tremendous depth. This year they've had issues with their pitching. Obviously, their bullpen has held up pretty well despite losing Mariano Rivera on a freak accident.
Yeah.
But for me, the Yankees have the better bench than Detroit. They have certainly a lot more depth than Detroit. But I think Detroit ultimately is in a better position because, one, they're healthier, and two, they have an easier schedule to finish out the season than the Yankees do right now.
For sure. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that the Yankees are kind of free-falling right now. I think that they've kind of realized that, we're not the top dog anymore. I think they were more focused on the Red Sox. The Red Sox aren't relevant anymore this season. But now the Orioles are there, and Tampa Bay is creeping up. So I think that they're kind of like, oh, no, everyone's coming to get us. And I don't think they can handle it. And you're right. I mean, that freak accident with Mariano Rivera, that sucks. But, I mean, luckily they had someone who can come in there and kind of fill the role a little bit. But I think that at the end of the day, you're right. Detroit has a better chance of making a run for the playoffs. Okay, so let's switch it up and let's quickly talk about the NL wild card, which is kind of crazy. Which team do you think is going to take that one?
I think it's easily going to be the Braves. No matter who takes up the second wild card spot, the Braves have the better bullpen. The Braves have the better rotation. Their lineup is one of the better lineups I've seen out of pretty much all the other teams competing for the wild card, and their bench has a lot more depth. I think it's really going to be interesting to see if any team could possibly give them a run for their money on that. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, I think it's just going to be the Braves taking an extra game, just to secure that wild card spot and then go into the NLDS.
Yeah, I think that you're probably right with that. I mean, St. Louis, I don't think has the firepower to or really the pitching. And Pittsburgh, I think that they don't really have the offense either. Obviously, they have Andrew McCutchen, but I think that he's kind of a lone star over there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the Dodgers, obviously they're 1.5 games back, but they're kind of sliding pretty quickly. They're losing the San Francisco games that they really need to win. They're not winning.
Yeah.
And Adrian Gonzalez going there. Yes, he's a great player, but there's a reason why they traded him. You know what I mean? I'm not sure. Obviously, I hope, and Los Angeles Dodgers fans hope that he can create that spark. If he does, if he brings them up, then maybe, if the Dodgers play Atlanta, that could be a pretty good game, and they could be able to sneak away with that. But I think you're right. Atlanta just is far above the better team if you look at the wild card teams right now that are contending. So, all right. So let's switch to another topic that I am dying to talk about, and I know Jared is dying to talk about this too.
Yeah.
Steven Strasburg got shut down, and he is done pitching for the Washington Nationals, a team that is probably going to be going to the playoffs, probably needs that number one guy. Obviously, they have Gio Gonzalez. He's a great pitcher. They would really like to have him starting game one, help them get to the playoffs. Do you like the decision, shutting him down?
I think it's a terrible decision. I would have agreed with it if they had said that it was more physical concerns, because we do know that Strasburg has this violent delivery, and his entire mechanic relies around just being very forceful upon his arm. But to say that it's more mental kind of proves to me that they don't really have a whole lot of faith in turning him into this true number one. Like they're keeping him, they're treating him more like a number two, and he's supposed to be the face of the franchise along with Bryce Harper. And if you're shutting him down because of mental issues, mental reasoning, I think it kind of sends a bad message to your fan base that you're willing to give up on this season. I mean, granted, I don't think that we're going to have enough to win the World Series because offensively they've kind of been up and down all season long.
Yep.
But, at least with Strasburg in the postseason, if you give him a chance to kind of take in the atmosphere and really kind of, build up from this, it would have helped him out long term. I think sidelining him, this season when you're obviously making the postseason and probably in a good position to make the NLCS easily, I think it really hurts them long term.
Great point. I completely agree with you. I think it's a terrible decision, especially from a fan perspective. Just speaking as an Oakland A's fan, if I were, if the A's made the playoffs and they decided to shut down like Josh Reddick because they were like, oh, well, we don't want him to get hurt or something, I would be furious. This is the guy that you want to see out there. You want to see your team compete, and you work so hard. You go to every game, and the team as itself, it has to just be demoralizing to a team if you put your faith in this guy. It's, like you said, the face of the franchise, and then they decide, okay, you know what, Strasburg, you're done. We want to wait until next year. It's like, well, what were we even fighting for if you don't have full faith in us? So I don't like the decision. I wish they would just let him pitch, maybe just shut him down until the postseason, then bring him back. I don't know if that was something that would be plausible because then he may, lose his old rhythm and everything. But you got to figure something out. And again, if you realize you're starting to contend, and the Washington Nationals have been a contender, arguably for the whole year. If you think they're going to contend, you think you're going to possibly make the playoffs, maybe schedule him a little bit differently, so you can save him. I don't think that was a good job at all by them. And unfortunately, they're going to have to deal with the consequences. And like you mentioned, their offense, it can't really create that boost to help them out. So it's unfortunate, but they're going to have to deal with the consequences. And sorry, Washington, but yeah, you messed up on that one. So.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard because now, they're going to have to carry an extra pitcher for the rotation. Mm-hmm. And, Edwin Jackson's been pretty good. And typically in the postseason, he's always been pretty good. But I don't think you want to trust him when you have someone like Steven Strasburg, who right now is sitting on a 11.13 K9.
That's incredible stats for a guy that young. Like his career is just going to be insane. It's going to be crazy to watch him. Just hone on his craft, and he can only get better. And he's this good now.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Exactly.
It's absolutely insane. All right, let's talk about the MVP award. I think that we kind of agree that there's only one candidate, but let's go ahead. So, MVP award. Who do you think is going to win that?
For the American League, I think it hands down belongs to Josh Hamilton. I don't think there's any other really big names that can contend right now. You could have Miguel Cabrera, but considering they're on the outside looking in for a playoff spot, that's going to eliminate him off the talks just right off the bat. So right now, the only candidate that really stands out is Josh Hamilton.
Yep, for sure. I definitely agree with you. Josh Hamilton, I think, is the obvious choice. And I don't think that anyone else, you mentioned Miguel Cabrera, but I don't think that's really an option either.
It's going to be because they missed the playoffs. You would easily go with Mike Trout as well, but they're also on the outside looking in for the playoff spot.
Exactly. All right. What about the NL side? Who do you like as the NL MVP?
There's a couple of good candidates there. Really, I think one of the ones that I think a lot of people are going to be rooting for is Andrew McCutchen because he's been the sole reason that the Pirates have been offensively involved in the playoff hunt at all. But realistically, if the Brewers can kind of slip in there, I think they have a really good chance, especially with the Pirates falling out and St. Louis, being as banged up as they have been all season long and having easily the worst bullpen in all of baseball right now. If they can slip in, Ryan Braun's got another MVP under his belt.
Yep, for sure. Great point. I'd like to see Andrew McCutchen get it, but if Pittsburgh does not make the playoffs, if they can't make that run, I think people are going to say, hey, great year, but we still can't give it to you. Ryan Braun, you mentioned him. I've watched him play for the whole year now, and I'd like to see him get another MVP. It would be cool if he does. Like you said, if he can carry his team offensively and make the other players around him better, to produce, and if they make the playoffs, obviously you got to give it to them because they're so far out and they've had such a dismal year so far. But just looking at the list, I don't see anyone else even really being talked about. Obviously, Cabrera is not even supposed to be mentioned anymore. You know, if he had not done what he did, then obviously people would be like, "Oh, hands down," you know. But it's unfortunate, but steroids and all that stuff and performance-enhancing drugs, whatever, it kills sports. So. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Cy Young really quickly because this is going a little bit long. Sorry, guys. So let's quickly talk about the Cy Young. Who do you like for that award?
The American League, I'm liking David Price. I think he's hands down one of the clear favorites to win it.
Okay, yep, David Price, definitely agree with you. We before mentioned Chris Sale as someone who maybe can get that, but if David Price can just pitch like outstanding for the rest of the year and put his team in the playoffs, you gotta give it to him. So that's the same thing goes for Jared Weaver. If Jared Weaver can do that, then you got to give it to him. So it's really between those two. I know a lot of people are going to think that, you know, Justin Verlander should be mentioned. Yes, we'll mention him, but I don't think that you can really consider that as being anything else than a mention.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the NL side?
NL is really a lot more interesting because you have a lot more different candidates that are on the cusp of actually winning it. You have R.A. Dickey, who's been pitching extremely well on probably the unluckiest team in all of baseball right now.
Yeah.
Gio Gonzalez, I've said since April actually that I like his chances of being at least in the top 5 in the voting. Johnny Cueto, I think you almost have to give it to him just because he's been so dominant and has been the anchor point for that Reds rotation. If I had to pick between those 3 candidates, I think, you know, it'll probably land in Cueto's hands.
Yeah. If Gio Gonzalez can take that ace spot and pitch like Strasburg did, like he's been doing the whole year, you got to give it to him. I hope that it goes Gio Gonzalez. You mentioned Cueto. Oh man, he's really good, you know, and his team is in a position where he could really carry something, you know, he could really make an impact. So if he could do that, R.A. Dickey at the beginning of at the All-Star break, I was like, oh man, we got to give it to him, you know, he's doing amazing things.
Yeah,
but it's unfortunate that his team is just playing like it is. So, I got to give it to Gio Gonzalez. And I hope that happens. And I think it would be pretty cool because he did play in Oakland. And, you know, I'm kind of rooting for him. Kind of biased. But I got him. All right. That's it, you guys. Definitely write in the comments. Let us know what you guys thought about our different topics. Who do you guys think is going to win the AL Wild Card? NL Wild Card? What do you guys think about the MVP awards, the Cy Young awards, and about Strasburg being shut down? Okay? Definitely write in the comments. Definitely click a like on this video. I want to mention Jared. He makes amazing backgrounds. He made that background that you guys see on my channel, which is incredible. And he also talks about baseball all the time in his videos. And it's amazing the amount of knowledge that this guy has. You know, you think Buster Olney has it. This guy has it. So definitely, if you're a baseball fan, you like talking baseball, definitely go check him out. American Nightmare 76 is his YouTube handle. So definitely go check it out. Jared, I want to thank you so much for doing this. Do you have any parting words?
Hey, I'm just hoping that we're going to see a really interesting World Series.
Yep, for sure. And hey, if you guys like this, hey, we'll do it again, you know, playoff edition. I think that would be pretty cool too.
Yeah.
That'll be exciting. All right, guys. Until next time, Live 5-0. I'm outie.